Harrison and Associates Law Office radiated old-world wealth, from the dark mahogany panels to the ostentatious portraits of past partners. I perched in the leather chair outside the conference room, watching my siblings arrive one by one, each meticulously ignoring me. Michael arrived first, every inch the polished air in his bespoke Italian suit, smugness permanently etched on his face from decades of being Dad's favorite. Elizabeth followed, dripping in designer threads, diamond rings sparkling as she furiously tapped her phone. Last came Thomas, trying unsuccessfully to mask his disheveled morning appearance with a lazy slouch. "Miss Carter," the receptionist said with forced politeness. "Mr. Harrison mentioned that the reading is only for heirs." I could almost hear the smug satisfaction radiating from my siblings. Exactly what they'd anticipated, probably orchestrated behind my back. "Oh, really?" I said smoothly, gathering my briefcase. "Because I happen to have an appointment with Mr. Harrison." Michael's voice cut in, thick with condescension. "Sarah, don't make a scene. We all know Dad cut you out years ago." "Yes, the infamous disinheritance. All because I refused to join the family real estate empire and chose my own path. Dad had declared I was no longer his daughter. Little did he know what I'd quietly been building." "Actually," I said, glancing at my watch, "I'm perfectly on time for my 10 a.m. The conference room door swung open. James Harrison himself appeared, his eyes widening slightly at the sight of me, though he maintained a polished composure. "Miss Carter, thank you for coming. Please, everyone, step inside." Michael's face darkened. "Jim, she's not supposed to be here." Dad was very clear. "About the will, yes," Harrison interrupted smoothly. "But Miss Carter has some important information we need to review first." I walked in and took a seat directly across from my siblings, placing my briefcase on the polished table. The leather chair groaned under me. "Before we start the reading," Harrison said, "Miss Carter requested a few minutes to present some documents." Elizabeth finally looked up from her phone, her irritation obvious. "This is absurd. We all know Sarah was cut out. She's just stirring up trouble like always." I smiled and began pulling out folders. "Actually, Liz, I'm here to save everyone a bit of time. Before we dig into what Dad's will says, perhaps we should discuss what he actually owned when he passed." Thomas blinked, clearly confused. "What are you talking about?" "Dad owned everything, apartment buildings, offices, shopping centers." "Did he?" I began spreading the papers across the table. "Because these deeds tell a very different story." Michael snatched a folder, his face blanching as he read. This can't be right." "Oh, but it is," I said, laying out more documents. "While you were busy running Dad's company into the ground, I quietly acquired his properties one by one through shell companies and investment groups. Ever wonder why your biggest competitors seemed so mysterious?" Elizabeth's manicured hands trembled as she rifled through the papers. "The Riverside Apartments, the Maxwell Office Park, the Highland Shopping Complex. All mine," I finished for her. "Through Carter Investment Group, my company." "Well, technically, I own several companies," I said smoothly. Michael sputtered, disbelief written all over his face. "That's impossible. Those are billion-dollar properties." "Indeed they are," I replied. "And they've belonged to me for years." Dad was too busy fuming over my refusal to join the family business to notice I was quietly building my own, a far more successful one, it turns out. Harrison cleared his throat. "This is precisely why I agreed to this meeting. Miss Carter now controls roughly 85% of what you all assumed would be your inheritance." The room fell into stunned silence. Thomas, finally looking less hungover and more horrified, whispered, "How? Remember when Dad hit those cash flow issues 3 years ago? When he had to start selling off properties to keep the company afloat?" I leaned back casually, enjoying the expressions on their faces. "Who do you think was buying them?" "It started with Riverside Apartments." I spread out a few documents. Dad prided himself on never selling to big corporations, preferring local investors. He never realized that Highland Investment Partners, his proud local buyer, was actually mine. Maxwell Office Park went through Summit Enterprises, also mine. By the time I picked up the Highland Shopping Complex, he was practically giving properties away. Michael stammered, "But, the family business?" "Basically a management company now," I said smoothly. "Managing properties that belong to me." "Congratulations, you've been working for me for the last 3 years." Elizabeth's shock quickly shifted into scheming calculation. "Daddies can overturn these deals." "You took advantage, we can prove it." "No," Harrison said firmly. "You can't." "I reviewed every transaction personally. All were conducted at fair market value. Miss Carter simply outperformed," he paused diplomatically, "everyone else involved." Thomas spoke softly, almost inaudibly. "Did Dad know?" A flicker of emotion passed through me before I suppressed it. "Yes. I told him 2 weeks before he died." "Want to know what he said?" They leaned in, curiosity piqued despite themselves. "He laughed," I said, almost smiling. "Really laughed. Said he should have known the daughter who refused to join his company would be the one to beat him at his own game." Michael's face turned a deep shade of purple. "This is some trick. A setup, Show us the bank transfers." I calmly began spreading more documents, property appraisals, current rental statements. "Here it all is. While you 3 pretended to be real estate moguls, I was quietly building an empire." Elizabeth scoffed. "But you run a tiny investment firm." "That modest office downtown?" I corrected. "Headquarters of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Just because I don't flaunt it doesn't mean I'm not successful." Something Dad finally realized before the end. Harrison cleared his throat. "Perhaps it's time to proceed with the will." I leaned back, a small smile forming as I prepared to watch the show. "To my children, Michael, Elizabeth, and Thomas," Harrison began, "I leave my remaining business interests in properties which, as Miss Carter has clearly demonstrated, consist primarily of the management company and a few minor holdings." My siblings sat frozen, speechless, as Harrison continued. "To my daughter, Sarah," he read, and I could feel their jaws tighten at my name. "I leave my private art collection and personal properties, along with an apology. You proved me wrong, and I've never been happier to be proven wrong in my life." Elizabeth's phone slipped from her fingers, hitting the table with a sharp clatter. "The art collection, but that's worth, more than the rest of what's left of the business." I smiled, calm and controlled. "Yes. Ironic, isn't it? This can't be legal." Michael barked, rising to his feet. "I'm calling our lawyers." "Go ahead," I said, gathering my folders. "But you might want to glance at the management contracts first." "Every property you've been managing?" "Those agreements come up for renewal next month." The words hung heavy in the air. Without those contracts, their so-called company was essentially worthless. "You wouldn't," Thomas murmured. "We're family." "Family?" I laughed coldly, without a trace of humor. "Family? Was it family when you cheered Dad for cutting me out? When you ridiculed my investment firm? When you whispered lies about me to the industry?" I straightened my jacket and stood. "But yes, technically, we are family. Which is why I'm offering you jobs, real jobs, working for me. No favoritism. You'll start at entry level, just like everyone else." "Entry level?" Elizabeth's face went pale. "But we have experience, Michael objected. "No," I corrected. "You have experience spending Dad's money. Now you get to learn how to earn it." Harrison hid a grin behind his hand. 30 years of watching this family play their games, and this was better than any show he'd ever seen. "And the management contracts," Michael's voice was hollow. "How much?" "We'll talk next week." My office. Monday, 9 a.m. Be on time. I'm not as forgiving as Dad about tardiness. As I headed for the door, I paused. Oh, and Elizabeth, your wedding penthouse? Market rents start now. Business is business. The last thing I heard before leaving was Thomas's feeble voice. Does anyone else feel like we were playing Monopoly while she was playing chess? In the elevator, I finally let myself breathe. Dad's last words echoed in my mind. I was wrong, Sarah. So wrong. You didn't reject the family business. You reinvented it. My phone buzzed. A text from Mayo. How'd it go? Exactly as expected, I typed. Prepare 3 entry-level training packages. Contact building management at Elizabeth's penthouse. Rent adjustment, market rate. Another buzz. Ruthless. Perfect. Lunch to celebrate? Can't, I replied. Meeting with the art appraiser. Apparently Dad had better taste than his kids. Stepping into the sunlight, I surveyed the city skyline. Half the buildings in view belonged to my companies. Not bad for the daughter they wrote off as a failure. Another buzz. Michael was calling. I ignored it, sending a curt text instead, all business matters through proper channels. Monday morning. Bring your resume. The best revenge isn't retaliation. It's rising so far above them that they can't even recognize you anymore. And the greatest legacy isn't what you inherit, it's what you build while everyone else waits for their share. Dad understood that. Now it was time for my siblings to learn it the hard way. Driving back to my real office, the one they'd never truly known, I couldn't help but smile. Monday morning would be entertaining. Nothing teaches humility like realizing the sister you dismissed as a failure has been your landlord all along.